And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the ONEwraps Cup Clash here at the Windshield Deep Racing League. Sean Butler, Kevin McAdams here tonight.
I'm
120.
producing again. This is going to be really bad.
He is. So this is going to be fun, as
They really need to
always.
hire somebody to do this.
18 cars in this field. Very tight field up front. Andy Trupiano and Dylan Wilson only separated by 7/1000ths of a second for the pole. Andy Trupiano getting the edge on the number 77 machine there. But I think we're excited for this race. It's our home track, Sean, so I think we're in for a good event.
It really is. I mean, we're a hop, skip, and a jump away from this place, and I don't know why that extra bar is there, but we go here every now and then, and it's a good race to watch in real life. It's a good race to watch in iRacing. I'm gonna scoot this thing over that way. There we go. Okay, that's better. All right, so I think we're getting ready to go green here, Kevin. Andy Trupiano at the back.
Yeah, a handful of guys having to go to the back of the field. Top three in the race last week having to go to the back. Slow start here. Spencer Dickinson will command the field. Green flag is out tonight. First of 125 laps. Something we know about this track, Sean. Highline is very quick, so we'll see if that highline can pay off for Dylan Wilson. Looks like it so far. They're going to draw even into three.
And the high line is going to be the preferred groove here. Now, when passing, it's definitely the preferred lane. You can make the bottom work, but they are just bouncing all over the place right here. Mason Maggio on the 64 getting used up on the front stretch. Into turn one, though, it's still Dylan Wilson with that slight edge as they head down the back.
Slightly eventful battle as they were battling for third there. Drew Cox, the winner for the moment. But behind him, Mason Maggio all over the place in 3 and 4. Casey Pierce looking to capitalize on his mistake. Goes beneath that number 64 Nationwide machine and doesn't look like he's going to have any run out of turn two. That high line, like we mentioned, really good. It's a weird lane or weird line you have to run at this track. You kind of run about maybe a lane off the bottom through the corner, and then you kind of cut it down.
Look at this.
So we'll see. Oh God, they're all over the place here in the back. But we'll see if passing is at a premium or if it's going to be pretty difficult tonight. As they're still side by side, this is going to be a battle for it looks like the 11th position. And Ricky Harden had it, and Chris Davis wants it.
Davis working the high lane there, as you can see. He has to put a lot of wheel into it. But this is, it's no secret that we're not short track guys by any means on iRacing. But we do enjoy New Smyrna. It's one of our favorite short tracks on the service. It always provides good racing, especially like this. Look at Brian Smith in the 68 in the top 10, currently sitting in 7th, and here comes Landon in the top 3 last week, and he's going to make his way from the back to the front, and here he comes in the 75.
I think we're going to see two different strategies in terms of aggression. I think with they only have one set in the pits this week. Very short pit road here, so they're going to have to worry about that. They're probably going to have to share pit stalls here tonight, even with the 18 drivers, but only one set in the pits for these drivers. So you see someone like Brian Smith who's really pushing. Andy Trupiano also pushing. He's pretty aggressive right now, running low 19.2s at the moment in comparison to our leader, who is also in the low 19s as well. So these guys are really ripping these tires apart early. But I think we're going to see some of these guys saving tires, something we see every single week, saving their first set of tires and waiting as long as they can to be aggressive with that second set, as Brian Smith makes a little bit of a mistake in turns 1 and 2, and that gives Andy Trupiano the advantage, or the position for right now. That moves him into the 8th spot, Sean.
Really does, and we're seeing a lot of moves being made here in the race so far. Dylan Wilson, though, still with a good lead, but don't look now. Spencer Dickinson right on his tail. This is the first week I've seen him running his wrapped late model scheme that he's running in real life. So this is a beautiful car that he's put on the late model. He's now transferred it over to the 87 cars on iRacing. Gotta say, it's very nice looking, but Spencer Dickinson all over the rear end as he heads into turn number 3.
If you haven't seen the reveal video for his late model that he will be running weekly at the local short track scene, it's a very bright Dayglow red. That contrast with the black it's an awesome looking car. So definitely go to his social media page and check that one out. But like you said, Spencer Dickinson has been fast the last few weeks. He was fast at Rockingham, and he's fast this week yet again. He's all over the back end of that 77 machine, and he's looking to regain the lead. Had it because of Andy Trupiano going to the back to start this event, but Dylan Wilson made that high line pay off. So right now, Spencer Dickinson all over the back of that machine, and behind them, Drew Cox and Jacob Hayes are also looking to get in the mix.
Yeah, look at this. We got a four. Guys, we haven't really seen at the front. At least three guys haven't seen too much at the front all too much this year. Dylan Wilson leading a bunch of laps. Jacob Hayes has usually been just chilling in the mid pack. But how about Drew Cox? He's been around the front for a majority of the season. Just hasn't really had a race where he's put it all together. But he's in the podium spots right now, so he's having a good run so far. As Spencer Dickinson trying to glance underneath Dylan Wilson for the lead. But right now, that 77 looking mighty strong out front.
4 cars separated by only a second. But right now, just looking through these intervals, everyone's kind of spread out a pretty decent amount. We might be in for an anomaly if we've ever seen it here at the short track scene in Windshield Deep.
Don't say it.
We might be in for a long green flag run tonight.
Don't say it.
As there's only 16 cars tonight, so a lot of room here on this half mile. I think it officially measures at 0.48 miles, so a little bit under a half mile here in Samsula, Florida. But I think the way this field's going to be spread out for the event, a couple guys trying to make their way through the field. Landon Huffman trying to get back to the front. Andy Trupiano looking to get up front as well. I think we're going to see some passing, but eventually this is going to kind of spread out and settle out. And I think this has a recipe for a very long green flag run here, Sean.
Well, now that you said it twice, it's definitely not going to happen. But who knows? I mean, we're known for heavily jinxing people in these races, so we'll see. But nonetheless, it's still 4 cars at the front. Well, now 2 packs of 2. Spencer Dickinson still trying to work over our leader. But here comes Jacob Hayes looking underneath Drew Cox, and he thinks better of it on the front straightaway. Now he doesn't. I think Drew's going to let him go going into 1 and 2, and he does. So Jacob Hayes advances to the 3rd spot. And this is probably the most spread out field in Windshield Deep history right now. So we got to go a little bit further back to Andy Trupiano making a pass on Max Price in the 22. This is the battle for the 7th position. And Trupiano is through. So move him up into 7th. Landon Huffman just ahead of him in 6th. So these guys, the whole field is very separate. There's literally the battle for last. It's between Jack Bailey and Ricky Harden. As there goes Bailey, and Harden will fall back to the 16th spot. But this is the tail end of the field. Your leader, Dylan Wilson, just coming off of turn number 2. So we're going to be seeing these guys start to run into lap traffic before they know it here, Kevin, as they work their way through 3 and 4.
And I was thinking for maybe a split second if that number 15 machine of Ricky Harden is saving his tires. He's pretty off the pace. But listening to the pre-race chatter, someone asked, I believe it was Landon Huffman, asked Ricky if he was drinking tonight. He might be again. We don't know for sure. Obviously, if you want to check in Hard in the Wall on Twitch, you might be able to find that out for us. But in the meantime, he is last, running about a half second slower than our leader. So they're going to be on him in about 10 laps or so. He's only about 4 seconds ahead of Dylan Wilson here as the battle still rages on for the lead. But despite this field being spread out, there are a handful of battles besides our lead battle, as Spencer Dickinson does look low, but it looks like he's going to concede for the moment. And we get that nice zoomed in shot that Sean Butler is only capable of. He's trying to get a run off the corner. Not really something you can do here if you keep trying to get pinched on the bottom. You got to make a move on the outside if you have any shot of making a pass. But a couple of battles for position besides this. Mason Maggio and Drew Cox battling for 4th for the time being. Mason Maggio, the winner on that one for the moment. And then behind Casey Pierce, you have a battle for the 10th place position or 9th place position between Max Price and Chris Davis. Chris Davis just overtook the 22 machine as they went into turn 3. So Chris Davis moving up as well.
I hear contact.
Uh-oh.
I can tell where it was.
Oh, Max Price almost into the wall in turn 3.
Oh, there he is. If I could find him. There he is.
Brett Pancari just passed him as well. So
see what happened. It looks like he just took turn 3 a little too wide and just slapped the wall there a little bit. No harm done, it looks like.
And the marbles, unfortunately, so he's going to have to dust those off. I was going to give Max a little bit of credit. He was up a considerable amount of positions from his starting position. He started in 12th and made it up as high as 7th, but it looks like he's pretty much given almost all of those spots back as Brian Smith now looks underneath him, and he looks like he's just tight. He's really tight. He might be locking up.
Here's the reason. Watch the hands. I saw this going to the corner. He is just cranking this thing. Look at how much wheel he's putting into it. And the more you do that, the more wheel you put into it, the more throttle you put in. It's going to spell push for you. So Max has to realize that as he's doing it again. but he's got Eric Wilson underneath him. So let's compare. So here's Max. Watch his hand. So going into turn number 3, just cranking the wheel. Let's compare it to leader Dylan Wilson. See how much wheel he's putting into it. Down the back straightaway into turn 3, and
Max's right hand is pretty much at the bottom of the screen, whereas Dylan's is about probably 8 or 9 inches relative to the sim higher. So yeah, he's definitely sawing the wheel a lot farther than our leader. And not only is that hurting him on the short run here, Sean, but that's going to be hurting him once we get into the later stage of this run. If we get around that lap 65 mark, he might be having issues with that right front tires. They're still raging on for this lead battle here.
It's a good battle. They're coming up on the lap car of Ricky Harden again, so I assume I don't want to assume, but you got to think Ricky's usually up front in these races or towards the front, and he's just sitting there just all over the place. So I mean, he's back here in last. But Kevin, you said he might be saving tires. I don't know. This is it's a little excessive if you ask me if he's saving tires.
I mean, I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. I did, like I said, last week there was an incident in which he was under the influence of some kind of beverage, and I think that's the case again tonight. Like I mentioned before, only 16 guys out here tonight, so maybe he's having a little bit more fun pulling a Davies Doobie. He's just having a little bit more fun than the average racer. And you know what? That's okay as long as he doesn't get anyone else involved, as he is loose right in front of the leaders. I know we're focused on these two, but Ricky Arden just got really loose out of turn 2, and they're fast approaching that 15 machine, about 0.3 of a second faster still for that 15 versus the 77. They're still trying to battle for the lead, but they're going to have to navigate Ricky here any minute.
We're going to have our focus cam solely on Ricky right here, so we're going to keep the zoom on him as he tries to stay out of the leader's way, and there he goes to the outside. Our first car to be in arrears is Ricky Harden. So Dylan goes by. Dylan's been very strong this race. I don't want to jinx him, but could we finally see Dylan Wilson head to victory lane in windshield deep competition? Would be his first victory. I don't want to say anything yet, but Dylan's looking pretty good so far. He's on pace to do it, but Spencer Dickinson has not left his sight this whole entire race. So he's been a thorn in his side since the drop of the green, and doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon.
And, you know, it's weird that he hasn't won a race yet. He's been very strong pretty much weekly. I mean, he's led laps. He's been up front the entire season. And looking at the points, he's 4th in points. And, yeah, he's probably about 20 points behind, Andy Trupiano and Landon Huff. And that's the battle for the championship at the moment. Only a 2-point gap between these two, as these guys are side by side for the lead. But yeah, I agree. Dylan Wilson is due for a win. But right now, Spencer Dickinson looking to change that. He makes that inside line work, Sean. That's something we don't normally see here at New Smyrna. That inside line powers through on 3 and 4, and Spencer Dickinson now in your lead.
And if I'm Dylan Wilson there, I'm thinking maybe I'm just killing the tires a little too much from running this high, so might have let him go to save himself for later in the race, as here comes Jacob Hayes underneath the lap car of Ricky Harden. Jacob is right back up here thanks to that side-by-side action a little bit ago between our leaders. But right now, Dickinson has that cleaner air, and he is checking out here. He's got the track to himself, and look for him to stretch out this lead. Currently sitting at just about 0.7 of a second, looking up to a second very soon. But let's see the differences in lines these guys are running. So Spencer might look at the left side tires on that car. He is kind of diamonding it off the corner. Meanwhile, Dylan behind is just kind of keeping it right on the yellow line. So differences in lines between two of these guys. So we'll see which one plays into the better, I guess, tire wear situation later in the race. But right now, Dickinson continues to pull away.
And, behind Dylan Wilson, Jacob Hayes I think he's about to take over for second here. He is flying in comparison to that 77 machine. I think he just used his stuff up trying to fend off Spencer Dickinson. Last time by, Spencer Dickinson ran a 2:39 versus a 4:81 for Dylan Wilson. Jacob Hayes looking to get underneath that ONEwraps machine. But before he was underneath that 77 car, Sean, something that I saw with Jacob Hayes was that typical line we would see when we would go to the Saturday night weeknight or the Saturday night weekend races, the local scene for New Smyrna. You run about maybe a lane and a half up, and then you get that straight exit off the corner. And that's something I saw Jacob Hayes do. He really got a good launch off the corner, and that's why he's underneath Dylan now. He does clear that number 77 machine. We'll have to still compare lap times and lines as far as these top two, as Spencer Dickinson is now out to a 1.6 second lead. So he might have been saving his tires behind Dylan, as he is now running 20.2s. He was running 20.3s behind Dylan, so he's kind of letting those legs stretch right now, and he is now 1.7 seconds ahead of our number one machine of Jacob.
Tell you what, man, I really love going to those Saturday night, weeknight races here at New Smyrna. But yes, it's very similar here. So pretty much everything that comes here, you see a lot of good side by side battles. As Ricky is still sliding in front of Landon and all them, but the middle groove is gonna be. It's tough because you got to pass people. They're going to force you to the bottom. And here comes Landon. And unless they let you by like Mason Maggio does for Landon there, it's going to be very tough to pass anybody here, as there's not really any big close battles happening. This is the closest you got right now. So Mason Maggio is right now caught right in between Andy Trupiano and Landon Huffman as he slid back just a little bit. But Ricky Harden, man, he is just continuing to just plummet through the field. He's not even on the lead lap anymore still.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely going to be a race of attrition too, because I don't see this going have a lot of caution. So you got to keep your pace up, and if you fall down a lap, it's pretty hard to get it back here in the Windshield Deep Racing League, as Ricky Harden's still struggling on that high line. But right now, Andy Trupiano has his hands full. That Nationwide machine right ahead of him. He has to keep his eyes on that number 75 car of Landon Huffman. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, championship battle between those two, separated by only 2 points. So as it stands right now, they are at a dead heat tie for the championship, winner of 2 races apiece between those two. So the tie would go to top fives at that point, and Andy does have the advantage for the moment. So he would be okay with it being a tie, but Landon Huffman obviously doesn't want that to be the case. He's looking for more positions, and right now he's in the top 5, so that would actually make him tied. We'd have to go to top 10s, and they're tied at 6 apiece. So tight battle for the championship, and right now we have a tight battle for 6.
Doesn't get much closer than that in terms of standings, so we'll see who can come out on top there. Ricky Harden is just all over the place behind these guys. But look at Mason not making it easy on Andy. So Andy's been much faster as they come up to the lap car of the 71 of Tim Tripler up there in the marbles. But Mason's able to fend off Andy off the corner. So Andy not liking this. Landon Huffman is setting sail just ahead of him, and he's been held up by the 64 car, Mason Maggio. So definitely not what Andy wants to see. But right now, Spencer Dickinson has already opened the gap up to almost 3.5 seconds. So Spencer picking him up and putting him down early on in this thing.
Yeah, Spencer Dickinson, I think he did save his tires pretty well behind that 77 car, and he's gone. He's definitely left this field. Only 13 cars on the lead lap, and he's looking to make that even less, because he's got Jack Bailey ahead of him, Brian Smith ahead of him, a couple seconds ahead of those two, Eric Wilson and Chris Davis. And looking at the lap times, he's pretty much the class of the field every lap. A couple exceptions, Andy Trupiano a little bit faster this time, but for the most part, he is the fastest car on track, lap in and lap out. And with that lead, he can be a little bit aggressive for the moment. But someone I just saw looking at the standings, we were talking about him a little bit earlier. Max Price already pitted.
Yes.
He pitted on lap 36. That's his only set of tires. And if we're just doing the math here, that means he's only going to be able to go to lap 72 on this next set of tires, and that's with 53 laps to go. So that's a long way to go on that number 22 machine. I don't know if he's learned anything or if he's learned his lesson, but he's got a long way to go. As things starting to spread out a little bit between the field, except for this battle here. Here comes the number 75 machine under his teammate. That's Dylan Wilson and Landon Huffman.
Looks like Landon picked up a little right front damage. Not sure where that came from, but not that it matters a whole lot anyway in these cars, especially at short tracks. But Landon, again, looking awfully sporty. Again, had to start from the back after his podium finish last race, and they are just getting very close. But look who's creeping up to this battle right behind them. That's 7 car of Andy Trupiano. So he was able to get by Mason Maggio and reel these two guys in. But now Landon finally clears Dylan. So we're going to see if Dylan, you mentioned he's teammates with Landon, is he going to hold up Andy? And Andy thinks ahead, tries to get to the outside to make this pass. He's got to stay out there, though, in order to keep the momentum. It looks like he will. So heads up thinking by Andy Trupiano there to get to the outside to pass Dylan. and Landon is still right there in his sights.
I think that Dylan Wilson machine has hit that proverbial cliff on these tires. Last lap was a 28.899 versus the guys around him, 20.5 for Andy Trupiano, 20.470 for Landon Huffman. So I think we're going to see that number 77 come into the pits any minute now. Things settling down just a little bit in the top 5. Right now we have a battle for position. That's going to be the number 10 spot between Eric Wilson, Drew Cox, and Chris Davis. That's actually a battle for ninth. Eric Wilson getting underneath the number 63 machine for the 9th place position. So good run for Eric right now. And he might actually have his eyes set on Dylan Wilson here any minute, as Dylan's still losing a ton of time. But right now, this is the battle for 10th on your screen. Chris Davis in that Doobie Brothers machine underneath the number 63 of Drew Cox.
So this is the closest battle. So I'm looking through the standings. Not too much is happening as Davis locks the left front tire up. We saw a couple of guys doing that. We saw Ricky doing that while he was getting laps, but that might let Jack Bailey back there in the 2-car close up, as they're still swapping spots, as Davis is going to go underneath. Here's Brian Smith. He's going to be part of this battle as well, and so is Jack Bailey in that 2-car right there. So this is the closest action we've got on the whole entire track right now.
Yeah, things kind of chilling right now in the top 5. Chris Davis looking to stretch out a little bit from this battle for now it looks like to be 12th. Drew Cox is losing a ton of time. He definitely wore out his tires early out in that run. Jack Bailey gets underneath him, and that's going to put him in 12th. Now Spencer Dickinson looking to get through this lap traffic, gets underneath the number 63 machine of Cox, and now he sets his sights on the number 2 machine of Jack Bailey. So here comes the lap traffic for Spencer, and he's got a 3.4 second lead, so he can kind of relax here as much as he really wants. If he wants to kind of chill here and kind of save his tires a little bit behind the number 2, he has a ton of real estate. He actually just gained another 10, so he's not letting up at all. But he's got plenty of time to get around these guys safely, as Jack Bailey looking to get underneath Brian Smith. That's going to be for the number 11 position.
So looking at the times right now, Spencer Dickinson, of course, been mired in traffic, still ran a 20.4. Everyone around the only car that's close, Andy Trupiano and Landon Huffman in the 20.4s. And so Jacob Hayes in the 20.5. So Jacob Hayes currently sitting in second, Huffman and Trupiano 4th and 5th. So they're starting to reel Jacob in. There you see Landon and Andy over on the just outside of your screen here. But going to be interesting here. We're coming down to 60 laps to go in this race, and no caution so far. That is unheard of in windshield deep. So it's going to be interesting to see, as we have Drew Cox, I believe he's making a pit stop. So Kevin, I'm not sure if pitting is worth it here, because it just takes so much time to make a pit stop. You might lose 2, maybe 3 laps on pit road.
Well, I think these guys aren't going to have a choice. And we saw Dylan Wilson kind of hit that cliff. I think everyone's going to start hitting that cliff. And he's kind of recouped it since. He's now running 20.5s. But we saw with Max Price, you lose a ton of time if you start wearing out that right front. And I think these guys are going to be doing that here in the next few laps. So, if you start seeing your times hemorrhage, you pretty much have no choice. If you're about a second off pace in 40 laps, you're going to get lapped twice anyway. So you might as well come in and get 4 tires and make that thing feel a little bit better for the rest of the race. But we'll have to see what happens. I'm not 100% sure what a fuel run is. I imagine 125 laps is going to be fine with these 22-gallon fuel cells. But I think for the first time in a long time, Landon Huffman, our race organizer for Windshield Deep, he's begging for a caution. He started in the back. Andy Trupiano also started in the back because of their top 3 to the back rule from last week. And normally they get a couple cautions to kind of recoup this time. And right now they're about 4 seconds behind our leader, Spencer Dickinson.
You hear Landon kind of like burping the throttle a little bit through the corners. So we've seen people start doing that a little bit more and more on iRacing. We've got the exhaust right underneath the camera here. Let's see if we can listen in and see how the sound coming through Landon's throttle is sounding. You kind of hear he's kind of like blipping the throttle a little bit when he's coming off the corner. So not quite sure if that's working here, but I mean, it's probably one of those real life things that Landon implements,
Oh,
and
we have
it's
a
working.
caution. Jack Bailey is around on the front stretch. He was given a little bit of lip to the Spencer Dickinson, our leader, and I believe he didn't get into it with him, but it looks like him and the number 12 machine of Chris Davis got into it. Not sure why they brought out the caution. I guess they're just ready for one because he was well out of the way. So Jack Bailey, fortunately, gets into the side of that number 12 car, hits that inside wall, and wrecks that Century 21 number 2 machine. And I think now we're going to see pit stops, Sean. Regardless, these guys are definitely going to come in for tires.
A little bit of a hip check here for Chris Davis into Jack Bailey. So watch on the corner exit right here. Chris just gets a little too far off the wall there, and around goes Jack. Well, not really around, but it's reminds me of that issue. Remember the Ford Mustang? The guy in the Mustang GT was doing like the run what you brung races. He just lost it off of 4 and just went straight into the wall in the front. That's what it reminded me of. But here we go. It's game on pit road. All of our leaders on. Landon overshoots his pit stall a little bit, so that's going to cost him a little bit of time. But all the leaders have made their way onto pit road.
No debate here, Sean. 4 tires and fuel for everybody here on the lead lap. All 11 guys on the pits at the moment, and it looks like Spencer Dickinson going to be the first off. Jacob Hayes rolls off as well. Battle for third is going to be between the 77, the 7, and the 75. Trupiano gets off third. Dylan Wilson fourth. Landon Huffman back to fifth after that pit entry moves him back a spot. Eric Wilson in sixth. Casey Pierce in seventh. And then I believe Mason Maggio will be eighth. And I think he got lapped. Yeah, it looks like he got lapped in that 64 machine. The pace truck got around him. So Mason Maggio was eighth before this caution. And now he's going to be a lap down. You got to be careful here on these pits, the long pit stops, because of the, it's not in 2021 anymore. These guys are doing 22-second stops instead of 13-second stops. So it looks like Mason got bit there, and now he's going to be a lap down.
So these are going to update after this lap, hopefully. So Spencer Dickinson is going to be your leader here. There we go. So Brian Smith is not up there. He's going to just slowly fall down.
He's in the pits. You can kind of see him down there.
He's in the pits. So that's the running order right now. Brian Smith is still not in seventh. I don't know why he's sitting there. So it's Spencer Dickinson, Jacob Hayes, Andy Trupiano, Dylan Wilson, Landon Huffman, Casey Pierce, Brett Pancari, Eric Wilson, Ricky Harden, and Mason Maggio will be your top 10. So it's going to be interesting here. We had a real, I think that might be the longest green flag run in windshield deep history, if I'm not mistaken.
Might have had one around the same, maybe same distance. We had one at Iowa that lasted pretty long clip, but it looks like the 64 Mason Maggio going to get a break here, gets the wave around, going to have to start behind the 2 lap cars of Max Price and Ricky Harden. It looks like they're delaying the yellow to make sure these guys catch up, but we're going to be double file here up front. Like you said, Sean, Spencer Dickinson going to be controlling the field here for the first restart. Only one caution tonight, and I might be jinxing it, but I think we're in for a clean show the rest of the way. But the one thing that now a couple of these guys have is that gap is gone. The number 7 and the 75 both on the move through that first run. Now they're right behind the leader of Spencer Dickinson.
Well, we know one thing. The one big rule in racing is cautions breed cautions, and if that applies to anything in the service, it's definitely this league. So we're going to see, though. The guys have been very well behaved so far tonight. Only that one little accident with Chris Davis and Jack Bailey, but we'll see. So here we go. Pace truck is going to duck off here. We're going to come to 47 laps to go at New Smyrna, and Spencer Dickinson not wasting any time. Green flag is out. Hayes is going to fall in behind. First side-by-side battle is going to be right here. Dylan Wilson, Andy Trupiano, Landon Huffman right there. Squeezes in front of Casey Pierce, and now he's looking underneath Wilson. Wilson trying to make that top line work, but at the same time, you don't want to kill your tires this early.
Yeah, Andy Trupiano does not have that preferred groove, but he did have the advantage on that restart. Gets underneath that 77 machine of Dylan Wilson. Landon Huffman looking to follow suit as well, making that inside line work through 1 and 2. Dylan Wilson has to check up a little bit, almost hits that guardrail exit of turn 2. Has to check up for that. That looks like that's going to give the number 4 position to Landon Huffman. So now it's going to be a single file show from here on out, I believe. These guys are pretty spread out already, but we're going to have to see if the 7 and the 75 of Huffman and Trupiano can catch Spencer Dickinson. He has been the class of the field all night. But the one thing that Spencer does not have is someone that can kind of set his pace for him. Dylan Wilson led the first 30 laps or so of tonight's race, and that kind of gave Spencer that rabbit that he has to chase. Now he has to worry about setting his own paces. Now Landon Huffman gets underneath Andy.
Huffman to the inside of Andy Trupiano. So again, this has points implications, as you mentioned earlier, how close this points race is. Huffman to the inside. He's going to not be able to make the pass. Andy Trupiano going to go on through. But we still got a bunch of laps to go here, but you got to think that the championship's in the back of Landon's mind. He doesn't want to finish second to Andy Trupiano in the standings again.
Yeah, two-time champion in that number 7 machine, looking to make it 3 in a row, 3 for 3 in that 7 machine. He has been consistent all through his windshield deep career. And as it stands right now, it looks like Andy will be 3 points ahead of Landon Huffman right now. No tie having to worry about that. But any minute now, we might see Landon come back through. And he was pretty fast at the end of that run. So Landon might be holding back a little bit as he gets loose off of turn 2. So definitely not the case. But a long way to go, 41 laps to go, 40 laps to go this time by. And we might have a battle for the lead heating up here, Sean. Looks like Jacob Hayes is right all over the back of that number 6 machine of Spencer Dickinson, about a tenth and a half faster that last lap.
Well, again, what we saw with Spencer the last run when Dylan Wilson was leading, he was just sitting back there biding his time, keeping the tires on it. And I got to think he's doing the same thing here. Might be giving Jacob some false hope. We'll see, though. Hayes was awful sporty in the short run on the first part of the race, but we got to see what's going to happen here. I think Spencer, if he gets to the inside, he might let him go as Dickinson gets loose off the corner, and that's going to let Jacob Hayes go through. So now what do you do if you're Spencer? That might have made your tires get a little bit excess heat in them as Dickinson realizes that he's going to fight back on the high line for the lead.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do with this tire model, Sean, is spin those tires, especially off the corner. Now Dickinson's going to have to play defense with that number 1 machine underneath him, side by side for the lead through 3 and 4. Dickinson has the preferred groove, but Jacob has the momentum on that inside line, hooks the bottom really well. Leader at the line, Jacob Hayes by only 0.02 of a second, but Dickinson trying to fight really hard on that outside line, has the preferred groove and gets the momentum off. But Jacob Hayes is really impressing me on that inside line. They're still side by side.
Well, you see, the longer these guys go side by side, the better chance the 2 guys behind them have a chance to catch him. Trupiano and Landon Huffman are coming. And they're going to come up to a lap car here. I believe that's Tim Tripler in the 71 they're coming up on. So, actually, no, it's going to be Max Price, I believe. That's
Ricky
just
Harden.
ahead of them. It is Ricky Harden again. Oh, man. Oh, yep, there's Ricky. But
It's on the lead lap.
they're about to get lapped again. But Spencer Dickinson fighting hard for this lead. Is there's Ricky locking up the left front again. So, does he give room? He's not really getting out of the way. Oh, and Hayes gets loose. He's in the grass. Is he going to save it? He does. I think still saving it, and he's still able to keep it going. But now here comes Huffman and Trupiano ready to strike.
Thought for a moment that Jacob Hayes was going to have the advantage because of being able to set a pick on Dickinson with that Ricky Harden machine in the way, but I think he just got really loose off of turn 2, overthinking a little bit, maybe trying to give room for Spencer. I thought the right move would be just leaving him up against the wall.
Oh.
But Dickinson now has opened up a lead of about a half second in front of the first 3 behind him. Hayes, Huffman, and Trupiano, 2nd through 4th, and then Dylan Wilson in your 5th position, about a second behind them. So Jacob Hayes going to have to recollect it here, gather his thoughts, and now he's going to have to chase that number 6 machine again. And like you said, Sean, he does have the short run speed, but Dickinson is really good at saving these tires. And you might have been right before. He might have just been kind of setting a pace and then got a little bit loose and had to run his tires a little bit, but now he's got a nice cushion to worry about.
So he does have a nice lead now. Who knows? That might have made Jacob Hayes wear his tires out just a little bit. So Spencer Dickinson, a part of the Total Advantage Academy, learning more and more of how this tire model works thanks to Landon and the guys, and it's paying off so far. As you said earlier, has been the class of the field this whole race, but the question is, can he hold everybody off and seal the deal here tonight at New Smyrna? Landon Huffman and Andy Trupiano are going to be breathing down his neck here, and I'm sure that's in the back of his mind as he keeps looking at the results.
7/10 of a second lead from 1st to 2nd, but only about a 2-second gap from 2nd to 6th. So things closing up here in the first half dozen. Casey Pierce looking to get into the mix as well. He's only about a half second behind the number 77 of Dylan Wilson, who is also about a half second behind Andy Trupiano. So things starting to close up a little bit. Believe Jacob Hayes is holding up this first trio up a little bit at the moment. Landon Huffman trying to get an advantage, but it looks like he's about 2 car lengths back. Andy Trupiano also about 2 car lengths back. So at some point, we're getting down to the end of this thing, Sean. We're almost at 100 laps complete and 25 to go. Landon Huffman's going to have to worry. The longer this goes, the longer he's behind that 25 or that number 1 machine, if he can catch that 6 machine as we go to 27 laps to go next time by. And here comes Landon Huffman on that inside line.
Landon realizes that, and he says he's got to go, but Jacob Hayes going to be fighting as Max Price is giving our leader a hard time just ahead. And Jacob Hayes is going to fend off Landon for now. Landon's going to feed him the bumper. And the lap car Max Price going to be out of the way off turn 2 here. But Landon not having any patience here. As you said, Kevin, it's go time. 25, 27 laps. Goes by really quick here at New Smyrna. Unless a caution comes out, Landon's going to make this pass soon. And if he doesn't get a caution or anything, I think this might be game over and Dickinson might have it in the bag.
Landon Huffman trying to apply that chrome horn out of turn 2. Looks a little bit low into turn 3. Thinks better of it. Goes back single file. But he's going to have to worry about Andy Trupiano as well. He's trying to get around this number 1 machine, but Andy's right there, right behind him. Looking at the lap times, these guys are losing time. Andy Trupiano, Landon, and Jacob Hayes running 19.9s, while our leader Spencer Dickinson is running 19.8s. So he's about a 10th quicker. So these guys got to go. And I think Landon Huffman knows this. He hits the bumper of that number 1 machine yet again as we hit 24 laps to go this time by.
I don't think we've seen Landon this patient before. He's losing it now, though. Locks up the left front trying to get to the bumper of Hayes. And if we don't land him like we think we do, he is not very happy on the radio right now in that car. But we're going to see if Hayes can fend them off, as this is the closest battle right now on the racetrack. Got Dylan Wilson and Casey Pierce fighting just behind them, but we're going to keep it here. 3-car battle for the second position, and this is all Spencer Dickinson wants to see. He wants to see Huffman get to the inside of Jacob Hayes, but Hayes put a little bit of distance on Huffman coming out of turn 2 there, so I think Huffman might be starting to drive a little bit harder than he needs to. And here comes Trupiano. He gets a little loose off of turn 4, but this is only going to get tighter as the laps wind down.
I think the line that Jacob Hayes is running is making it really hard on Landon to get a good run, especially off the corner. Jacob kind of backs up the corner, runs pretty high, runs low here, but especially in 1 and 2, he runs about a lane and a half off the bottom. As Landon Huffman is sending it right now. He is loose out of turn 4. We'll look at the back here. But these guys are really high. Oh, there's contact bumper to bumper here in 1 and 2. Andy Trupiano almost had to evade these guys, but they're going to keep single file. Landon Huffman applied the chrome horn to that Jacob Hayes machine. And the more they battle here, Sean, I think the more Spencer Dickinson enjoys this. He has now opened this up to a 1.4 second lead. And with only 20 laps to go, this is going to we're gonna hit desperation mode as Landon is all over the back of this number 1 machine.
I was about to say, speaking of hitting, Landon is just beating the rear bumper of that 1 car up, but Trupiano looking to capitalize as Landon hits him again.
Does it again.
He's gonna end up turning him. I mean, the car, I'm surprised. We usually see if you tap the bumper on these cars a little bit, they usually get have some type of reaction, but Hayes must know something we don't with these cars, as Huffman has put the bumper to him numerous times, but that car has not moved. So Landon's got to figure something out, and quick, as Dickinson continues to drive away, as we're under 20 laps to go now, 18 laps to go in here at New Smyrna.
And desperate time calls for desperate measure. He's all over the back of this machine, but that gives Andy Trupiano a chance. On that outside line, Landon has to check up a little bit, nearly gets into the left side of the number 7 machine. Now a battle for third. Here comes Andy Trupiano making that high line work. And it's go time for that Andy Trupiano machine. Gets to third. Now he sets his sights on Jacob Hayes. Let's see if Andy Trupiano can do anything with this number 1 machine. Already closing in on that number 1 machine of Jacob Hayes. Gets a great launch off the corner, and he's all over the back end of that number 1 car. 17 laps to go. 16 laps to go this time by. Now making that high line work yet again. He gets on the outside. Oh, Jacob Hayes just disappeared.
I think he got disqualified. So that there he is.
Never mind.
All right, so that was a moment there for all these guys. So no harm done. So Trupiano, a lot less effort went into making that pass, and we've seen Landon Huffman try to get by Jacob Hayes. So Landon is probably fuming in that car right now. So Trupiano is through to second, and Landon Huffman does not want to see that. Here he goes to the inside of Hayes, and he gets the lockup that we've been noticing. But, man, I think Landon might have used those tires up too much, trying to feed the bumper to Jacob Hayes, and Trupiano driving away from these guys now.
Frustration level probably at about 100 for that number 75 machine. He is now losing ground to Jacob Hayes and Danny Trupiano. But we're going to have to start worrying about this 18 car behind that number 75 machine. Casey Pierce now into the mix. He's a little bit faster than Landon, so that'll be a battle for fourth. And looking at the big picture, the closer that 18 car gets, the more he's going to have to worry about losing that spot and losing yet another point in this championship battle. As it stands right now, 4-point lead for Andy Trupiano. And right now, Andy is the fastest car on track. He was faster than our leader, Spencer Dickinson. Long way to go in terms of margin, about 2.5 seconds for Andy. So as long as Spencer doesn't make any mistakes, he has this one. But any caution, any wreck can totally change the structure of this event. And I don't think Spencer wants that. But right now, the battle is going to be for that number 3 position. Jacob Hayes still having to worry about that 75 car behind him. And I don't think this is over by a long shot in terms of applying any kind of bumpers and maybe wrecking Jacob. He is really frustrated right now trying to get around that number 1 machine.
Well, I mentioned earlier that Landon gave himself some right front damage earlier in the race. He's given himself more damage trying to get Jacob Hayes out of the way. But Jacob Hayes is just not faltered at all. He's going to try again to the inside. He clips him, and around goes Hayes. And is he going to finish him off? He is, and that might bring out a caution.
It is. Caution is out for the second
Oh,
time.
man.
And that was a bump and a hit, and then another hit. Might have helped him out a little bit there to get that car around all the way to bring out our second caution. That's going to put the yellow flag out for the second time. 10 laps to go, so we're going to have a nice shootout here for the win, and that's something that Spencer did not want to see. I just mentioned that a caution would change the structure of this event, and that puts Andy Trupiano in a great position to battle for this win, get another replay of this incident. And it looks like, I'll have to look at it again, it looks like Landon just locks this left front up. Oh, yeah, you can see it right there.
Does a little bit.
Pushes up a little bit into that number 1 machine. And I mean, you gotta pinch here to hold the position. That second lane is a very, very thin line. And unfortunately, Jacob, the victim of a bump, and I don't think Landon's going to admit it, but that was definitely on Landon. That was just good short track racing by Jacob.
They're going at it right now on the radio, I
yeah.
think. So that's going to give the free pass to Jack Bailey, so he gets back on the lead lap, I believe. He does. He was a lap down. So this is not what Spencer Dickinson wants to see. The good news for him, though, is he probably has the freshest tires in the field. He was able to just keep his tires on that car, not pushing it as hard as he needed to. Maybe Andy Trupiano is up there with him in terms of tire conservation, but he had to pass a lot more cars than Spencer did. And we know where Landon is right now on tires, so it's going to be interesting. We've had one end of the spectrum here when we saw the guys passing Jacob Hayes. Trupiano was able to do it relatively easily, but Landon did it with a little bit, I don't want to say a little bit, but a lot more force to get the job done. So we're going to see how these styles clash. Did that on purpose there at the end of this race. But nonetheless, it should provide some fireworks nonetheless. And wouldn't be the first time we've seen fireworks here at New Smyrna. Kev, were you there when we saw the guy in the infield jump out of his car and start chasing the dude around with a crowbar after one of the late model races? Were you there for that?
I don't believe I was there for that one, but I was there for the very famous modified flip at around 10:30 at night after, I believe it was either the K&N race or one of the super late races we went to. So anything can definitely happen here at New Smyrna Speedway. We're going to be coming to 5 to go this time by, and I believe they got 2 to go last time. So that would shape up to be a 4-lap shootout for these drivers. Looking at the lineup at the moment, Spencer Dickinson is your leader, dominating fashion so far. And the number 6 machine, Andy Trupiano, looking to close this one out as well in second. Landon Huffman in third. Casey Pierce having a very quiet run in 4th position. Dylan Wilson will round out your top 5. Brett Pancari, another quiet run, another good run for that number 35 machine. Good to see him having another quality run in that number 35 machine. Mason Maggio in 7th. Jacob Hayes in 8th. Tough break for him. Eric Wilson, another good top 10 run for him in 9th. And Jack Bailey, our last recipient of the Lucky Dog, in 10th. And it looks like we might have the pace truck coming off here, Sean.
We are. So here we go. Pace truck going to duck off. 4 laps to go. Dickinson gets a good restart. So does everybody else behind. They spin the tires on the inside line. Look at Trupiano, though. That gets a great entry into turn 1. That is not what Spencer Dickinson wanted to see. Here comes Trupiano to the lead down the backstretch.
Andy Trupiano, great run off of turn 2. They're going to be dead even through 3 and 4. Dickinson has the bottom. Trupiano has that outside line. That is the advantage right now. It looks like by about 200ths of a second, Andy Trupiano with the lead. Dickinson looking to kind of battle back on the inside line. Someone's warping back there. It's Casey Pierce. But it looks like Andy Trupiano saved his stuff behind that battle between Hayes and Huffman and give the number 7 the lead with 2 to go this time by.
What a job by Andy Trupiano, 2-time champion for a reason. Spencer Dickinson, if he's got anything left, he needs to use it now. We've seen just how hard it is to pass here, as just behind them, Landon Huffman gets more beat up on that car as he's dealing with Casey Pierce right now. But how about Brett Pancari? I haven't talked about him at all this race. He's sitting there in the top 5. A white flag is out. 1 lap to go here for Andy Trupiano.
Not on screen, still battling for third. We're going to keep an eye on these top 2. About a 2-car length separate the 7 and 6 machine going into turn 3. Dickinson does one last hurrah, sends it deep, gets a little bit sideways in 3 and 4, but off of turn 4, Andy Trupiano going to come from the back and win here at New Smyrna in the short tracks only 125. That will be his 3rd win of the season in the 3rd season here in the ONEwraps Cup Clash.
There you go. So let's see what happens here. Jacob Hayes, no extracurricular activity with Landon Huffman. Oh, man. That was I got to say, that was a good short track race. You know, it felt like a short track race. You know, there was a long run, and Jacob Hayes is doing donuts in turn 4. So here we go. Final results here as they're beating and banging, but Andy Trupiano is your winner here tonight.
Is upside down, by the way.
He is. There he is. He's upside down on pit road. We'll get Landon is hitting him. Oh. Okay. So I think, Kevin, we're gonna have a word with a couple of these guys. You think?
I mean, if Andy can figure it out 2 weeks in a row, that'll be a record. So we'll have to wait for Andy. We'll let him, celebrate a little bit, but we'll get a word in with these guys. I'd love to talk to Spencer. He did really well tonight. Obviously didn't get the win, but he is definitely someone who is. I would definitely give him at this point most improved driver of the Windshield Deep Racing League. I'd love to talk.
Do
to
they
him
have
at some
that?
Point. I don't know, but I'd like to create it.
All right, so let's see. Andy? Oh, no.
We'll give him 10 seconds.
We'll give him
doing?
There we go.
All right.
All right.
Well, Andy, long race tonight, 125 laps, long green flag run. Tell us about, obviously, the win. You had a great car at the end there. Obviously, it looks like you saved your tires. But tell us about that long run, and then tell us about that last restart, man. Good effort there.
I appreciate it. Yeah, that was that first long run was awesome. I was hoping it would go green all the way. I had a lot of tires left in there. So yeah, I think I was in pretty good shape either way. I just, put in a lot of effort towards holding on to my tires, and yeah, it paid off. That last restart, I knew if I could just get to Spencer's right rear quarter into turn 1, I would have a really good shot. So yeah, I just did that and came home with the win.
Well, looks like we only have 2 more races left here in the season, and this championship battle is still pretty close between you and Landon. It looks like you open up that just a little bit. It looks like it's going to be a 5-point lead for you going into Richmond next week. Is that something that's going to be on your mind the last 2 weeks, or are you just going to do what you normally do, run quiet and consistent, and just get the best finish?
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be on my mind, but hey, I just gotta, control what I can control, and yeah, leave it at that.
Well, Andy, you're dominating yet again here in the 3rd season of Windshield Deep. Who do you have to thank, man, and who else would you like to give a shout out to?
Just DM Software Development, Top Gun Athletics, and Moldine Racing. Just the usual company.
Man, a few words always, Andy Trupiano. Very quiet and composed like he always is. Great win tonight, Andy.
Andy, before you go, can you next time you talk to Brian Mercurio, can you randomly just tell him to shut up on my behalf? Can you tell him that for me?
Yeah, sure, you got it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me, actually.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Andy, congrats, man. Awesome job tonight.
Thanks, guys.
I think, Kevin, that might conclude everything, should we try to get a word from Landon and see what that
Do
whole
you? I mean, he's live right now, so I mean, maybe he's a little bit busy with that. So maybe
all right, how
we'll
about
wait till
this?
next week.
RJ, we didn't get a chance to talk to you tonight for good reason. I mean, there are 2 cautions. How you feeling about that? You got to feel pretty pleased about that.
I was there for a little bit. I was getting kind of trigger happy. It's kind of open, trying to make my finger flinch a little bit, so I'd accidentally hit that 0 key to bring the caution out. But other than that, pretty damn good race. I have to say, good finish. All around a damn good race.
There we go. So, I mean, do you think the car count had something to do with that? I mean, this field got pretty spread out quickly.
Well, naturally, of course. I mean, the car count as well as the individuals, participating are the same guys that have been here every week. So that's pretty much what's going to happen there. Hopefully with a little bit more car counts with the same quality or same respectfulness of drivers there, or raciness of drivers, I'll say that. It'd be good moving forward.
So what do you think? Where are we at next week, Kevin? Richmond, you said?
Richmond,
Yes.
that should be a good race. I mean, Richmond, these cars should be a good race, as well as the defamed North Wilkesboro. So 2 more good races, I hope.
So where are we going to get the points coming in, RJ? Because I'm curious to see, because Andy now should be the points leader, if I'm not mistaken, still.
He
so
very well should be.
Yeah, pretty sure he will be.
What are y'all going
to... I mean, we're going to tack him on as an employee at some point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What are y'all going to do if he gets his 3rd in a row? Like
1099 the shit. He's a damn labor now. Contract labor.
Oh man, well we can't go a race without talking to you, RJ. So we felt we'd get it done tonight. I'm still waiting on my triple pay for having to produce again. I'm gonna go yell at Landon for that.
Yeah, please. That's what you need to be yelling at. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope it's a good race for everybody, and hopefully Richmond will be just as good.
It will be. Well, thank you, RJ, for talking to us. Always a pleasure. I'll get you back down there with your official group and let y'all close the race out.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, RJ. So I think that'll about do it for tonight, Kevin. A solid race, I think.
Yeah, 2 cautions and honestly, something that we don't normally see here in Windshield Deep. A very long green flag run. So give credit to these guys where it's due, and we look to hopefully have that same momentum and same conditions next week. We go to Richmond International Raceway, a little bit different there than we visited last time. Was pretty much a 1-groove track with the recent surface parameter changes. That high line will definitely be a viable option for these guys. So we'll see these guys all over the place, similar to the likes of like an Iowa or before the dynamic tracks were demolished. So these guys will be all over the place. So we'll see great racing next week as well.
Absolutely. Well, that'll about do it for our coverage here tonight, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning on in. We appreciate everybody being here, and come back next week, and hopefully I'll get a week off from producing, but knowing everyone here, probably not. But thank you all for watching. Stay safe out there. We'll catch y'all next time. Y'all take it easy. Say bye, Kevin.
Goodbye.